Let me tell you something real. You're never going to feel fully ready. You're never going to wake up one morning, stretch your arms, and say, now I'm 100% prepared to chase my destiny. That moment doesn't come. You know why? Because greatness never waits on perfection. Most people stand on the edge of their dreams, looking down at the unknown, afraid, frozen, talking themselves out of the leap. They say, I just need a little more money, a little more time, a little more support. No, what you need is a little more faith, a little more courage, a little more obedience to that calling inside you. You'll never be fully ready. No matter how much you prepare, how long you wait, or how carefully you plan. That moment where everything feels perfect, where every question has an answer and every doubt has disappeared, never actually comes. You could sit on your dream for years waiting for the perfect time, and it still wouldn't feel just right. The truth is, life isn't designed for perfect timing. Life rewards courage, not certainty. You have to understand that feeling unready is part of the process. That anxiety in your chest, that's what stepping into purpose feels like. That uncertainty in your mind, that's a sign you're entering new territory, and you can't reach new levels without first leaving familiar ground. You've got to stop thinking readiness is a destination. It's not. It's a decision. A choice to say, I might not have it all figured out, but I'm going anyway. Most people never get started because they think they need more. More money, more time, more support. But that's just fear dressing itself up as logic. You don't need more. You need to move. The idea that you should wait until everything is lined up perfectly is the exact lie that kills more dreams than failure ever could. It convinces people to play it safe, to wait for a sign. But sometimes the only sign you get is a fire in your gut that won't go away. That's the call. That's your moment. That's your permission. When you look at people who have made it, really made it, they all tell you the same thing. I wasn't ready when I started. You think entrepreneurs knew everything about business before they launched. You think speakers and performers were confident before they stood on that stage. No. They felt what you feel. But they did it anyway. They took the first step into the unknown and trusted that growth would meet them on the path. That's what makes a difference. Not how much you know, not how many degrees you've earned, not how many people support you. It's whether or not you're willing to take the step scared. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. What you need is the courage to act on what you feel in your heart, even when your head is filled with doubt. We live in a world that tells us to play it safe. Go slow. Don't take risks. But greatness doesn't live in the safe zone. Nothing legendary ever happened in the comfort zone. You think jumping before you're ready is risky. You know what's riskier? Never jumping at all. Sitting on the edge of your calling for 10, 20, 30 years, watching others live the life you dreamed about, because you were waiting for certainty that never came. So stop asking, am I ready? Start asking, willing to try, willing to fall, willing to learn, because you'll never grow wings if you don't leap. And when you do jump, scared and unsure, you'll be surprised what happens. You'll find strength you didn't know you had. You'll find people and resources showing up right when you need them. But none of it will happen until you move. The miracle is on the other side of motion. So don't wait. Don't stall. Don't let fear sound like wisdom. You are more ready than you think. And the only way to find out what you're capable of is to jump before you're ready. Fear is the loudest voice when you're standing on the edge of a breakthrough. It will scream all the reasons why you shouldn't move, why you should wait, why you should stay safe. But the truth is, your breakthrough is not on the edge of what's comfortable. It's on the other side of what you're afraid of. And to get there, You need more than just knowledge or strategy. You need faith. The kind of faith that moves even when your legs are shaking, even when the voices in your head say it's not the right time, even when nobody around you understands the vision you're chasing. Fear will always try to make you overthink everything. It tells you that you don't have what it takes, that you're too old, too young, too unqualified. But fear is a liar. And when you let fear lead your life, you stay stuck in cycles. You keep repeating the same year over and over again, calling it growth, but you're really just walking in a circle. Faith, on the other hand, doesn't need all the answers. It just needs one reason to believe. Faith is that whisper that says, move anyway. It doesn't silence fear. It moves in spite of it. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. That's what the journey is for. Faith is about taking the first step before you see the full staircase. It's about trusting the process, even when it's messy. You might not have all the resources, all the connections, or all the confidence. But if you've got the vision, that's enough to begin. Because when you move in faith, what you need starts to show up. Not always immediately, and not always how you expect, but it comes. You were not built to play small. You were not designed to hide your gifts behind excuses. You were given a dream for a reason, not to decorate your thoughts, but to direct your steps. That dream is divine. That fire in your heart isn't random. It's a signal from your soul reminding you that you're here to do something greater than just survive. But fear will do everything it can to convince you to stay still, to doubt, to delay, to shrink your vision until it fits other people's expectations. But faith is different. Faith says, even if I don't know how this ends, I'm going to start. Faith is aggressive. It pushes through fear. It walks through storms. It shows up even when the conditions aren't ideal. And every time you take a step in faith, you get stronger. You build endurance. You gain clarity. You start to see what's possible. Not because everything is perfect, but because you finally decided to move without waiting for perfect. Don't let fear drive the car. Don't let doubt dictate your decisions. Faith must be the engine behind your action. Because when you choose faith, you choose progress. You choose purpose. You choose power. And yes, it's scary, but fear never built anything great. Faith did. The reason you haven't moved yet isn't because you're incapable. It's because fear has been louder than your belief. But now it's time to shift. Time to quiet the noise. Time to trust what you feel deep down. Time to leap with shaky hands and a steady heart. Because in the end, it's not the fear that holds you back. It's the lack of faith to fight through it. And when you finally decide to let your faith be bigger than your fear, that's when you truly begin to live. There's a hard truth that most people don't want to hear. You don't learn how to fly before you jump. You learn how to fly while you're falling. Success doesn't arrive wrapped in comfort and clarity. It shows up in the chaos, in the fear, in the moments you step into the unknown and everything inside you screams for certainty. But the only way to grow into who you're meant to be is by doing what you've never done. And that requires movement, not mastery. You might be waiting to feel confident, waiting to be skilled, waiting until you're certain you won't fail. But confidence doesn't come before the action. It comes after. You build it every time you show up despite the fear. Every time you push through the doubt. Every time you face something new and choose not to run. That's when you develop strength. That's when the wings begin to form. And eventually, what once scared you becomes part of your story. Nobody becomes great by staying on the edge. You can study, you can plan, you can watch others do it, and hope that someday your time will come. But at some point, you've got to leap. You've got to take that uncomfortable, imperfect, scary first step into something that stretches you. Because only then will you start to see what you're truly capable of. It won't be graceful at first. It won't feel easy. But that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're growing. Every skill, every lesson, every moment of clarity you're hoping for, it's waiting for you in the fall. You just can't access it until you leap. The people you look up to didn't learn everything before they got started. They figured it out as they went. They tripped. They messed up. They doubted themselves. But they kept going. And over time, those stumbles became strength. Those mistakes became mastery. That's how the journey works. You don't get the reward without the risk. And let me tell you something real. Nobody is going to give you permission to fly. You've got to take that on your own. Waiting for someone to tell you it's your time is like waiting for a bus that isn't coming. The moment you decide to jump, you claim your own future. And when you do, things begin to shift. People begin to notice. Doors begin to crack open, not all at once, but just enough for you to squeeze through and start building momentum. Will you be afraid?
Yes.
Will you be uncertain? Absolutely. But will you survive the jump? More than that, you'll thrive. Because you were made for this. You weren't designed to live a small, fearful life. You were created to expand, to rise, to lead. And that can only happen when you're willing to be uncomfortable for a season so you can elevate for a lifetime. So stop waiting for everything to be perfect. Stop convincing yourself that fear is a sign to stop. Fear is often the sign you're headed in the right direction. Because dreams worth having will always make you nervous. But they'll also pull you toward purpose. And once you leap, once you start falling, you'll realize something incredibly. You were never falling at all. You were learning how to fly. And flying, my friend, doesn't begin at the edge. It begins in the air. There's one truth you have to understand. If you ever want to move forward in life, waiting for approval is the fastest way to stay stuck. Too many people never step into their calling because they're waiting for validation from others. They want someone to co-sign their vision, someone to say, yes, that's a great idea, or now is the right time. But what if no one ever says it? What if the people around you don't see what you see? What if your dream is too big for their small minds? Does that mean you should abandon it? No, it means you've got to believe in it enough to move without applause. You see, the people around you won't always understand the size of your calling, and that's okay. It wasn't given to them. It was given to you. And that means it's your responsibility to act on it. You don't need a cheering squad to take the first step. You don't need a committee to confirm your vision. Sometimes you've got to be your own motivation, your own believer, your own voice saying, let's go. The truth is, many people project their own fear and limitations onto you. It's not that they're trying to hold you back out of spite. Often, they're scared themselves. They can't imagine taking the leap, so they don't want you to take it either. They'll say things like, that's risky, or you should wait until you're more prepared. But what they really mean is, I'm afraid, so you should be too. And if you let those voices dictate your path, you'll end up living a life based on their fear instead of your faith. That's why it's so important to shut out the noise. You have to protect your dream from small-minded opinions. You have to guard your vision like it's treasure, because it is. And not everyone is qualified to speak into it. Not everyone deserves access to the deepest parts of what you want to build. Stop giving front row seats to people who wouldn't even clap for you if you succeeded. You're wasting energy trying to convince people who've already decided not to believe. Instead, focus on the internal approval, the one that comes from knowing this is what you're called to do. That internal fire, that gut feeling, that relentless vision you can't shake. That's all the confirmation you need. Every great leader, every successful person you admire had to walk alone at some point. They had to go without support, without consensus, and sometimes even with criticism. But they didn't let that stop them. They understood that sometimes the greatest faith is walking alone with a dream everyone else calls crazy. And here's the beauty in that: once you move, the right people start showing up. Not the doubters, but the builders. Not the critics, but the collaborators. The kind of people who see your courage and say, let's go. But you'll never meet them if you don't start. You'll never find your tribe if you don't first stand alone. Movement attracts alignment. Action invites opportunity. But the waiting game only leads to regret. So stop trying to win people over. Stop explaining your dream to people who lack the capacity to understand it. Let your results do the talking. Let your progress be the proof. You don't need everyone to get it. You just need to get moving. Because the only approval you really need is the kind that pushes you forward, not holds you back. And that kind of approval, it comes from within. ChatGPT said, you have to understand that discomfort is not your enemy, it's your gateway. Growth doesn't live in the comfort zone. It lives in the hard places, the unfamiliar spaces, the moments when you feel like you don't know what you're doing, but you move forward anyway. Too many people spend their whole lives avoiding discomfort, thinking that safety equals success. But the truth is, everything you want is on the other side of discomfort. That promotion, that dream, that breakthrough. It's all hiding behind your willingness to get uncomfortable. You've been taught that failure is something to fear, that making a mistake is a sign that you weren't ready. But that's wrong. Failure is a teacher. Discomfort is a coach. Every struggle, every awkward first attempt, every moment of doubt, that's the training ground. And the reason you haven't won yet isn't because you're not capable. It's because you're still trying to avoid the parts of the process that make you feel vulnerable. But you can't skip the pain and expect to grow. You have to embrace the stretch. When you jump before you're ready, you force yourself to grow into the person who can handle the dream. That's where the transformation happens, not before you leap, but after. Because when you're in the air, when you're figuring it out as you go, that's when the strength shows up. That's when the resilience kicks in. You don't learn how to thrive by sitting in a classroom or waiting on the perfect plan. You learn by doing, by failing, by trying again. That's how winners are made. You think you need clarity to move, but what you really need is courage. Because clarity comes from movement. You won't figure it all out from the sidelines. You won't develop confidence by playing small. You've got to be willing to look foolish for a while. You've got to take a few hits. You've got to walk through that season of uncertainty and know that it's shaping you. Every uncomfortable moment is a piece of the foundation you're building. And if you stick with it long enough, that foundation turns into success. Here's the thing. Your dream doesn't care about your comfort. It's calling you higher. It's asking you to stretch beyond your limits. It's pushing you into situations that demand more of you. And that's how you grow into the person who can carry the weight of the blessing that's coming. See, most people want the reward without the requirement. They want the success, but not the struggle. They want the spotlight, but not the sweat. But that's not how this works. You've got to pay the price. And the price is discomfort. But here's the promise: discomfort doesn't last forever. It's a season, a proving ground. And if you can push through that season, if you can show up even when it's hard, you come out stronger on the other side. You come out more focused, more disciplined, more prepared. And most of all, you come out with a level of confidence that only comes from doing the hard things. So don't be afraid of discomfort. Don't run from the stretch. Embrace it. Walk into it with your head high and your heart open. Because discomfort is not trying to destroy you. It's trying to develop you. It's molding you into someone who doesn't break when life gets hard. Someone who rises under pressure. Someone who becomes unstoppable. You'll never reach your potential inside your comfort zone. You've got to be willing to walk through the fire, knowing that it's refining you, not burning you. And when you do that, when you face discomfort head on, you stop being the person who talks about change and become the person who lives it. In the end, the difference between a life of regret and a life of purpose is one single decision, the decision to move. Not when it feels safe, not when it feels easy, but when your heart tells you it's time. This journey is not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about saying, I might fall, but I'm still going. It's about trusting that the dream placed inside you is worth the risk it takes to chase it.